little or big or whatever it's significant to you, or it's significant to the following that you have at the time,
Mhm.
I think then there's a lot of eyes on you. And there's all of this anxiety of like, how do I maintain these people's eyes and their care and attention for what I'm doing? And how do I give the people what they want? And how do I,
Right. Awesome. Well, it's so nice meeting you.
yeah, nice to meet you too. I'm really happy that I discovered you guys.
Awesome. Well, we're happy you discovered us as well. So this is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new song you have out and everything you have coming up.
Sick. Awesome.
Sweet. Just based off of what I was reading about you, you're from what, Connecticut originally?
Yes, Connecticut. I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have for years now. So
Okay. How old were you when you moved to North Carolina?
I was 18.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you were like out of high school and everything
Out
like
of
that.
high school, like into college. I moved for college and then I ended up doing music and I just stayed because I didn't know where else to go. Um, well, I was like, I was like, I can't afford to just swing it in Nashville or LA right now. So I was like, let me just get my feet off the ground. And now many years later, I'm still here. But I think that moving is in the future. I just kind of am putting the pieces together. So we're gonna find out. But
Very cool. No, there's a lot of stuff going on in North Carolina. There's a lot of musicians I actually have talked to that live
it
there.
is. It's like anywhere. I mean, there's gonna be talented people wherever you go. um Perhaps like less concentrated in pop specifically, but that's allowed me to like build a local fan base, which has like really helped with pretty much every other area. So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
So, Connecticut, talk to me about growing up there.
It was, so I'm Italian and pretty much everyone where I'm from is Italian.
Oh,
It's,
interesting.
like
Okay.
very yeah, so like Connecticut is very like southern Connecticut, right outside of New York City, so it's like 45 minutes outside of Manhattan by train.
Oh, that's
um
awesome.
Yeah, so it was like a really unique place to grow up. Like it was incredibly diverse. A lot of like second, third gen immigrant families. And yeah, I mean, it was just kind of unlike other places in the country, like North Carolina. I'll speak to people about like their growing up and their high school experience. And it's just pretty vastly different from mine. And
Mhm.
I didn't go back just because I stayed here, but when I go home now, I miss it so much. And I'm like, I could see myself moving back one day.
Yeah, and I mean, being 45 minutes outside of Manhattan, that's
Yeah.
quite that's pretty amazing in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the best part. But I mean, I mean, in a weird way, consider New York City home just because I had so much proximity to it. Like my dad worked in Manhattan. My sister has lived there for 10 years. So when I go home, it's kind of like I'm split between the two.
Mhm.
Most of my friends work there and I'll do shows and whatnot. So I definitely love New York. It's my first love. I think it's just like one of the greatest cities ever. Yeah.
100, yeah. Well, how did you get into music? Do you come from a artistic
Kind
musical household at all?
of. Yeah, so on both sides of my family, like grandparents were very musical and had a lot of like interesting things happen to them in their careers, like many, many years ago. But my parents really weren't. My mom sings in a cover band and she has like as a hobby,
That's
which is
awesome.
iconic. Yeah, she's been doing that for since I was like, God, maybe like 10 or 11. So I think she's a singer and I inherited that, but definitely not from my dad. And for me, it was just kind of like a thing I was interested in, a private hobby. It wasn't totally encouraged. Like my sister was an athlete and that was kind of what I was supposed to do, was be really good at a sport. But
Mhm.
I mean, in my soul, like music just spoke to me and I wanted to learn instruments and make it. So
Yeah. Did you play sport at all or no?
I did. I was a swimmer and I played tennis and yeah, so I definitely, like found them interesting, but not in the way that like music is.
Music did? Yeah, that's awesome. I did swim as well in like high school. So
Were you good? I could see it for you.
I was pretty good. I mean, I did water polo, which was big because I'm from San Diego and Southern
Oh,
California. Water polo was a big sport.
water
And not
polo is
really big,
huge out there.
but it was big enough. Yeah, so I did that from like 7th grade through not to the I stopped doing it before my senior year, but yeah, and if you played water polo, they made you go on the swim team.
Yeah, oh,
So
100%. Usually
yes.
it's the other way, like you'll swim and then they'll give you water. Like I played water polo just by virtue of swimming, but I wasn't like good at it.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah,
Did you
but
do
it
it in
was
like
so
high school and stuff, or was it just something that you
I
just
think it
kind
was
of?
more like summer league stuff, like middle school into high school. Like I, never took it seriously. But that's so cool to like think that was like how you got into swimming. That's
Yeah, it was that. I didn't enjoy the laps and stuff, but
yeah.
it was what it
It's pretty
was.
monotonous. It takes a special kind of person to find it. Like, I
Yeah.
it's just so boring to me. And I swim and I'd be at swim practice and I would just be like singing songs in my head and like my
Right. That's all you
it
can
was
do is like think.
always, yeah, just always somewhere else. But
I always wondered, like, I don't, this is so off topic, but is there like, I've tried to find like headphones or something that you could like use in the
yeah,
pool and swim. I don't know if anyone's came up with the technology. Maybe I'm just ignorant to it.
I feel like those did exist. I never had them. They were probably so expensive and they probably
Right.
still are and they probably aren't great, but that could be a game changer, I think.
Yeah. I mean, because
Yeah.
that's the one thing about swimming that like I wouldn't go back and do it as like a means of exercise just because it's so boring. Like
It's so
you're
boring. You have to
like,
do it for so long to like get benefits from like you have to like swim for like over an hour like to really reap the like full workout. Like it's
it's
I
a
don't miss
lot.
it. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
know.
And it's just, yeah, I have like nightmares thinking back to swim practice, like getting there at like 5 in the morning. And yeah. And
Getting a cold
anyway,
water. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's like you just everyone's standing there and the coach would be like, if everybody's not in the pool in the next like minute, then we're all swimming like 100 butterflies for like 30 minutes. You're like everyone's just pushing each other in the pool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. That was the vibe. Like, oh my God, torture. I don't know how anyone else liked it, but they did. I don't know.
yeah, that's funny. Well, so music, as going back to music, so mom wasn't or is, maybe she still is in a cover
She
band.
still is. Yeah.
Would you go see her perform and stuff as a kid?
Yeah, I would. I mean, it was at first I was like, I don't know whether or not to be embarrassed by this, but I mean, I thought it was so fun. Like I just think that like I saw her last week. I went home and I went to see her and I haven't seen her in like years do it. And it's just so fun, man. Like I think people that love to perform, it's like such a like once you're into it, it's like you just crave it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Like, what songs did she do, or is it just like a
It's kind of
plethora
all
of them?
over
Or
like
something? Yeah.
60s to now.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was always fun, but no one in my family like played instruments or like took an interest in it, but I definitely did pretty young. It was like this was a given.
Okay.
Um
What age did you start playing an instrument? What did you play?
Piano, I started taking like lessons. I had ADHD. I was really bad at listening, but I started playing when I was like 9 or 10 and then guitar in high school because I was obsessed with Taylor Swift and I was like, well, I'm gonna learn guitar.
Oh,
Um,
I love Taylor.
like
I'm
every other
obsessed with
girl in
her as well.
America. That was
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So is she the reason why you've wanted to start writing songs?
I think so. I think she was a big influence, but there were several. I think that um growing up and admiring her was just for so many people so inspiring. She is just the greatest. Like I'm such a fan.
I know.
Um,
So am I. I have a gigantic poster of it right here, but you
wait,
can't see
that's
it.
amazing. I
If
mean,
I
I'm not
turn
like
it, it might
I
screw up the camera, but
I
let's see if I can see.
want to see which let's see what you got. Yes. Oh wait, that's a good one. Was that her like red era?
Yeah, I think so. And it's in like a double
That's
thing.
so cool.
Uh,
Yeah, she gets the biggest real estate in the office for you for
she
sure.
does. She does.
Yeah.
I when I worked on the radio for a lot of years, um, she was doing the on the 1989 tour. I like begged the program director of the I was on the alternative station, but there's a top 40 station. They did something with her, and I was like begged to go, and they're like, no, we can't, get another person in or whatever. But he brought me back like the 1989, a big picture, and she wrote like to Adam, love Taylor
That's
Swift.
so cool.
It's
That's
like
the
one
craziest
of my
thing
most
ever.
prized possessions.
Like I have never gotten like even a degree of separation, 5 degrees of separation away from the queen herself. Like she's amazing. I'm not like, like buying $10,000 tickets and
Oh,
going,
sure.
but like
Nice.
as some people are. But I mean, she was a huge inspiration. I mean, how could she not be? But I loved country music too. At the time, I thought I was gonna like be a country star, which is so funny. Like
Oh,
an Italian
really?
girl from the Northeast. Yeah, I don't know what I think I
I
was like sick from school one day and CMT, like the music videos were playing when I was like in elementary school, and I was like, this is so sick.
Oh, okay. And then so then you were just in the country at that point? Is
Just
that where
in the
you
country. Yeah, it was
okay.
big for me. And I mean, I loved every genre. I listened to everything, but at the time I was like, yeah, I could see myself like being a country artist, but I had no affiliation, like no, I'm not from the South, like not even remotely. It was so, and then it became kind of like a joke. Like it was like my like high school identity was like Nashville Nat. I've never been to Nashville at this point, and it was just kind of like this thing. Like we all like thought it was funny. Like, oh, I'm gonna be a country star, you guys. Like it's serious. But I learned guitar for that reason, and I just started teaching myself the instruments because then at that point it clicked. Like I could write too,
Mhm.
and I wanted that vessels for writing, but now like as it stands I'm not playing instruments like on stage. It's not like a huge part of my music. It's mostly like production and
Okay.
so
Yeah, so when learn guitar instead of writing your own songs, were you playing them out? Like, were you playing to people or around, like, in high school and stuff?
not at all. I had such bad stage fright and I was so afraid of being like seen in that capacity. It really took me into like late college to even like go to a recording studio for the first time. Like I had never sang on a stage up until 2 years ago. I had never
Wow,
sang.
even with your mom doing it? It
Yeah,
didn't
like
yeah, interesting.
terrified, like wouldn't do. I had like songs out and I was like, I had never performed. Um, and now I like can't get enough of it. Now I'm like, let me come perform. Like, let me open for you.
Yeah, sure.
Like, let me do it. Like I'm putting like, all these shows together and whatever, but like it was just such a private hobby. It was like a dream. It was like something I was like, this is like a dream that is either gonna like die as a dream, which is sometimes comforting, like you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like a fantasy that you make in your head, but or it was gonna become like, I'm gonna like
Something that you
try to
did,
do
right?
this. And I chose to try to do it. So
Did you end up, like, going I mean, were you putting songs out at that time, even if you weren't playing live? Like, I mean, when you're in high school, did you have, like, a
no,
SoundCloud or Bandcamp or anything? No.
nothing. I regret it now. Like I don't know what I was so afraid of. I didn't do it though. Yeah.
Okay. No, it's
I
fine.
admire
I'm just
people that
curious.
do when they're really young. I think it's so brave. Like,
Yeah, a
yeah,
lot of the people I talked to that did that, and so most people will just pull it offline, or they're like, "Yeah, you'll never hear those." They're like
yeah, you'll never
buried
hear
on the
them.
internet. Yeah, or like I privated all the videos and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so you end up going to North Carolina to go to college. You go to school for music or something totally different?
No, I went to Duke and I studied public
Oh
policy.
wow.
I was really academically driven um throughout high school, and I got into Duke University and went and I studied kind of hard, not that hard. At that point, I was like, once I got there and got in, it kind of became like, okay, like I'm not the smartest person in the room anymore. Like, what is my identity now? And it
Hmm.
became less about like, what is my identity for other people and what about like myself? Like, how do I validate myself? Like, what is the thing that I love? And within those 4 years, I very much realized it was music. It wasn't, anything else. And I look back and I'm like, should I have been a lawyer, a doctor? And it's like, I don't think so. I don't think I would trade this path with all of its like hard times for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was like there to become, one of those two things. So yeah.
Oh, interesting. So you went there and thought, okay, I'm gonna either be a lawyer or a doctor. I'm gonna
Yeah.
And
You know,
then how quickly into it were you like, I'm not into that. I just want
pretty quickly. I think the hardest part, and even now to this day, like I love academia, I love studying, I love learning, I love writing. I'm naturally very gifted at a lot of the things that school like entails. And as much as I loved that part, the actual like now go get a job and do this thing, that's when I think I got like cold feet. I was like, oh, it's not just like a textbook and writing a paper anymore and like answering emails. Now it's going to be like this is my entire life. And I felt like I couldn't commit to that right out of school. And I this is what I
right.
wanted to do. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of people. I mean, when I graduated, I didn't know what I wanted. Like, it's like, I actually, it took me a long time. Like the first couple of years in college, I was like, what the hell am I like? What is the point of this? And then did radio and I was able to kind of get my way in that way because I like music, but I wasn't a musician, but I could poorly play guitar. But like, that's kind of when I discovered that it was like, oh, okay, that's what I want to do. But
Yeah.
beforehand, you always have these ideas like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this," or "It'd be cool to do that," and then, most of
Yeah.
the time it never I don't know, maybe people do know exactly what they wanna do when they go at 18 to figure it out, but,
And maybe they do.
that
I
wasn't
mean,
my
that's
journey.
yeah. Like radio is so rad. Like I feel like that must have been such an interesting, maybe something you didn't think you would do, and then found it. But I think the weird thing about like being a doctor is like when you're 18 in this country, you're supposed to be like, yes, to the next 12
Right.
years of school and paying for school. And I like, I didn't have that kind of conviction. And, that's like
Yeah, I mean, that's
that's
an
a Fed
investment. Even be
thing.
a lawyer, right? You're leaving, you're like, God, I'm like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Like, hopefully this thing works out.
Yeah. So I don't know. You're right though. So many people just end up somewhere they didn't expect to be, but that's what's kind of exciting about life.
Right, right, 100%. So you start what like how do you then okay, you're like, "Oh, I wanna do music. This is gonna be the thing." Like, how do you like is there a moment that kinda clicks, or do you get the courage to put a song up, or do you do an open mic night? Like, what was kind
Yeah,
of
I mean,
the callous of like, "Okay, I think I can do this." Like, yeah, it's a great dream and it's something I would love to do, but realistically, I don't know if that's something I'm gonna be able to do. Like, what point did that change?
yeah, I don't know. I think senior year of college, and I was like, I need to like get a job to afford studio time. I'm gonna like start recording songs. I think I like knew some local people just like on campus and outside of campus. And I was like, I'm gonna like tell them I'm gonna try to do this and see what they can do to help me. Like I didn't know anything about music production. I never recorded myself. I'd never been to a recording studio.
Mhm.
Um,
You were just writing songs for yourself at that
writing
point.
songs for myself and like, singing to myself, like literally wasn't singing to people. And so I started just doing the studio thing for like a year or two and then ultimately put out a song and then like a lot of songs since then. But yeah, it's crazy that like now I look at it and I'm like, I had a lot of songs out that had like decent like press hits, like playlisting, like things happened, like
Mhm.
not like in a serious way that changed my life by any means, but like like it was enough to the point where it's like the fact that I had never done a show up until 2 years ago is like kind of surreal. Like I think I don't know how I managed to hold off that long and procrastinated for that long. Like I just wouldn't do it. Um until it was like something that I was like, I have to face this, I have to get over this. But and I knew it was inevitable. I was like, I'm gonna have to be on stage. Like, but I think I was just doing a lot of studio work and putting songs out. And I don't like now I just don't understand how I managed to stave it off for as long as I did. But
Mhm. Well, nowadays, I mean, realistically, there's a lot of artists that I mean, they've played shows now, but like the only artist I could think of back in the day was like Enya. I don't think they ever played a show, but
yeah,
they had like all those commercials on TV. It was like like to
I didn't
buy
know
their
that.
album. Yeah, I don't think they ever played a live show.
I didn't know
Uh,
that. So cool. That's so unique.
yeah, but
Right.
there's other people that like kind of blew up during the pandemic that never did it, right? I mean, they'd have a
Right.
song that got on TikTok or something. Like I remember interviewed Powfu, and he had that
Mhm.
huge song, the "Coffee in My Head" song. And when I talked to him, he only played like one show to like nobody, and then that song blew up over the pandemic, and his life was changed from there. But like, that's I think more common than not now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think nowadays it probably is. I think like exactly. It wasn't just putting songs out, it was also like trying to be on the internet, right? Like doing
Mhm.
the half the battle nowadays is just being online, being present and active. And I think I was kind of devoting my time to that. And it's funny now that I'm like dipping my foot into like doing shows all the time or trying to like make these tours happen or like whatever. And then also doing the content, also recording the music and writing the music. It's like I'm realizing just how there aren't enough hours in the day. Um,
Right. It's
and
a
to
lot.
make money on top of it, because obviously I'm at a point where I'm like, I need to continue to make money doing other things. Like I'm not making a living solely from music. So like there's but it is that period where I'm just trying to like just put one foot in front of the other and get the work done. Um,
Mhm.
but it is kind of crazy, yeah. Like there's a lot to do nowadays as a modern artist. Like
No, yeah, 100%. And so, like, when you put out your first song, what was that like? Okay, like, I got my song out. Like, I mean,
it was exciting. I
yeah,
think looking back, I don't love the song, but it's fun. Like people still to this day, I mean, it's only been in like however many years. It hasn't been like 50 years, but will be like, I love that song. And I think that's kind of cool that my journey is like I've never deleted anything. I've always just kept everything up, even if I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. But yeah, like I think in that moment I was so excited because I got a taste of like, this is, not everyone is um saying I won't be your friend anymore because your song sucks. And Yeah,
Right.
like my family still likes me. Like that's good, because there's so much fear. You put so much on that first release as a artist. It's such an exciting experience. And so when it's received well and people are supporting you, I mean, there's no better feeling than that, you know.
And like obviously people liked it. I mean, like to get validation from the first song that you put out must have been like helpful as far as like wanting to
It
continue.
was. Because then you're like, I can't wait to do this again.
Right, right. And then when this like was there like another like after doing the first song and then like maybe playing a show or something, like how quickly you said you played your first show a couple of years ago. Was that like past the pandemic or in the before it or
It
like
was 2021. So it was
okay.
I think Omicron. No, that was coming later. Yeah. So it was out of the 2020.
Like
Um,
pandemic like happened and then you
yeah.
during
Like
that time period were you writing a lot of songs?
yes, I was. I was writing a lot of songs and the cool thing, I think a lot of people did different things during the pandemic as artists. Like I know some people gave TikTok their full attention. I strongly
Mhm.
regret not doing that.
It
But
was a
I
little cringe
learned,
for me. I'm old though. I'm
I
like,
know.
I don't know
I
if I can
think
do that.
that was the thing too. I wasn't like so young that I was like, yeah, jumping on it. But I think for some artists that was life changing. For me, I learned how to engineer myself, which is like such an important part of my
Mhm.
process now is recording myself. Like, um, that's the greatest gift I gave myself during that time period. And because of that, I was able to just write a lot more quickly and efficiently. So the pandemic was like a good time in that way. But I also remember feeling what I think everyone was feeling, which is like all these plans I had are put on hold and this is time we won't get back. I mean, it was a difficult time. It's easy to romanticize it now. I find people being like, "Oh my God, I miss lockdown. Like I miss like never leaving the house." But it wasn't really right. Like I've
Until it
noticed a
happens
lot of
again,
that.
and then 2 weeks in, you're like, "Okay, I'm over this."
Yeah. And I'm like, do you remember when like your weddings were canceled and what I mean?
Right.
Like that. So um yeah, but I learned to record myself during that time. So that was helpful.
Wow, okay, so, like, the recordings that you have, like, currently out, like, you put out the first few songs, what, in a studio? You went to a studio and recorded? And then,
Yeah.
like, what did you do? Like, where did you start engineering your own stuff at? Like, what
You can
songs?
hear it at I have a song called Fate. I think that might have been the first one I did by myself. And you can hear too, like the songs I did professionally in studio when I wasn't comping my own vocals versus how everything has sounded since then. Like I can hear the difference in just like the way stylistically my voice sounds now versus how it was then.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so basically everything since then has just all been me. I don't think I've
Wow.
or
You
if I
never
were in the studio, I was doing the,
you're
vocal
doing
production
everything.
on my side. Yeah. So I can hear those differences, but for better or for worse, because I think sometimes when you record yourself or film or edit your own videos, anything like that, it's like hard to take yourself out of it. And, sometimes you need that third party to like kind of
Right.
meet you.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, that was, yeah.
No, that's cool. I think that I like kind of like well nowadays. I mean, a lot of people put a record out that they recorded or recorded in their bedroom or whatever, and
Right.
it it doesn't matter that there wasn't $100,000 of studio or producers or whatever behind it. I mean, if it's a good
Yeah.
song, it's a good song, and I kind of like the grit to some of that stuff where it's like you could like the lo-fi sense of recordings, and not that yours sounds that way. I'm just in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like being able to do that. Like I've had conversations with our artists like during the pandemic that would record like their vocal take in their, you know, closet with some USB shit mic, and then they would go
Yeah.
to the studio and we weren't able to like recreate that same like emotion when it came to singing the lyrics. It was like, okay, now it's kind of become like, stale because they've been doing it so many times and it's like they'll just use that first take from
Right.
I mean, did you feel like you can get some of that doing it yourself, like being able to pull probably I don't know, maybe being more like feeling more safe? I don't know if there's people
Oh,
around, maybe
a
not being able to be
100%.
as
It
authentic.
1000%. I think that's such a real thing. Like there's songs I've been like, I don't like this. I'm gonna re-record it. But then you re-record it and you're like, now I don't like it even more. Like I miss, you fall in love with like the rawness of it. But I think there's something to be said for being an artist that's just has an idea and then goes to cut it 5 minutes later. Whereas like
Mhm.
to book a studio, I mean, some people just have access to studios. I understand that. But just like in that moment kind of thing where you can just map out a song like in the present moment with yourself, I think is a really great gift that is really empowering. And it
Mhm.
gives you better understanding of how songs are made. I mean, when you're working with software and you're seeing where things go and how to layer things and what plugins I think all of that is really important in learning how to communicate with mix engineers, mastering engineers, producers, because you are helping yourself by helping the people around you that are helping you with the record.
Mhm.
Um, I think engineering is like probably my favorite thing, second to songwriting now and performing. I love it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. And I mean, you've had a lot of like press and stuff. I mean, Billboard has written about you. I mean, having like 10 cool new pop songs, like, and then having
Yeah.
like, Phineas and all these other big names on it, being a part of that. Um, like what was that like getting like your first publication and were you like that must have been such a big deal.
I when that one came out, I was like, and these are all like one-off things. I think, the modern artist, it's like that looks cool and it is cool, but it's also like, does that sustain itself past the moment? Probably not. And that's the reality of being a small artist or a small brand. But, getting that kind of recognition when I can say that out loud to myself in moments where I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard. This isn't working out. This isn't what I thought it would look like is really wonderful to have that kind of validation from a publication that you've known about since you were 5 years old. Like,
Mhm.
um, because if nothing else, it's like, well, that happened, like that was cool. So I think for that reason, I felt very validated and um, empowered. I felt like that was for a music video that I did, and I produced that video and kind of wrote it out with the director that I was working with for the first time, who's become one of my close friends. And that whole experience, it was just like very like me and my friends making a crazy video that I like thought of and didn't think we would accomplish. And then it was such a good product. And then to have it recognized, I was like, oh my God, like I can do this. Like I can get people together. I can write concepts that people like and make songs that people like. It just gives you that extra push. Um, but yeah, I definitely don't think like I think if people were on Billboard every day, it would lose like its luster. I don't know if it'll
Right.
happen again. I don't know. I never say never, but like yeah, it was definitely like a you're on the right track kind of feeling.
Well, you've been on Billboard more than that one time, right? I mean, you got the like they announced that you
Yeah,
had got the distribution deal and other, that's still
that that's
getting written about, right? In this massive
yeah.
thing.
It makes you feel great. I think there's also, I mean, artists also deal with so many weird like mental blocks like in a lot of ways. Like it's so easy for things like that to happen too, and then to turn around and be like, well, like imposter syndrome type of thing,
Right.
and like, I didn't really deserve that, or that was just a fluke, or that was a one-off. I don't know how that happened. And um, so it can you kind of have to just take them with a grain of salt, feel proud of yourself, and just let yourself feel proud, and then not read into it.
Yeah, move forward.
Yeah, and
Right.
move forward and keep your mind on the products, on the songs, on the videos, on the thing it is that you do. Because it's easy to lose yourself in all of the fluff, I call it, like the
Yeah.
cloudy things. It's hard to not compare yourself to other people. Um,
Yeah, those are all things that I would a lot of creatives would go through. Imposter syndrome is a huge one. And then just the fact that like you accomplish like like okay, yeah, I got on Billboard, but it's like that was great, kind of embrace it and then but now, now you want to go to the next thing, right? You always got to kind of look forward
Always look
instead
forward.
of
Yeah.
or instead
Like
of being like you never Anthony from this band Bayside, I interviewed him and he said, "You never arrive," which has always stuck with me, where it's like
great way of
he's
putting it.
yeah, like he's like, "Yeah, we got signed to a label and all this stuff." And it's like now we basically he's like, "We were at like the little kids table at Thanksgiving dinner, and now it's like we're at the big table, and it's like, now what are you gonna do?"
Now
I always
you've
thought
got to
that
schmooze and you've
yeah,
got to
now you gotta do it. You gotta prove it, not even like prove your worth almost.
and everyone's looking at you too. Like I think after like moments like that, little or big or whatever, it's significant to you or it's significant to the following that you have at the time.
Mhm.
I think then there's a lot of eyes on you. And there's all of this anxiety of like, how do I maintain these people's eyes and their care and attention for what I'm doing? And how do I give the people what they want? And how do I,
Right.
yeah. So there's a lot of voices in the head to balance. And it's, yeah, so that was moments like that, as good as they feel, I'm like, oh my God, a week from now, like, what am I gonna, it's, again, I'm at a point where I'm like, let's just focus on the songs and the videos and the
Sure.
shows and the things that are tangible for my own life, like in well-being, and not focus on the extracurricular things that may or may not come along the way.
Like,
Yeah.
so with Drive, that's the record that you put out, where, you landed the distribution with. Is that just for that song, or are you signed to them still, or like
Yeah,
how does that
still
work?
working with Dallas. That has been a really wonderful part of this year. We have gone to his house in Atlanta twice now for a few days at a time to work on songs and work with him and his various producers that he would bring in, or writers. And we have a lot of songs in the chamber that will be coming out, and I am so excited about them. I knew who he was when I was like a kid, so for that moment to kind of happen felt very full circle. And um if nothing else, just having his support and his feedback, like his expertise, his artistic expertise, like he's a musical genius, he's a genius of a business person, just having him believe in me has been so empowering. And we've made some really cool songs, like all of us together, so I'm really hoping that people hear them before the end of the year, but if not, it'll be the beginning of next year. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
And how did he find you, or did you find him?
I think that my managers, they're such brilliant like networkers, and um I think that I don't know what the connection was there. I wasn't really looped into it, but I'm really grateful that whenever it was that he was presented with my whatever my being, he liked it enough to be like, yeah, come down, let's do this, let's figure this out. But yeah, that was to their credit, not mine. Yeah,
Yeah, because
I'm
he's
there
written
for
so many. I mean, he's written so many big songs for so many big artists, right?
it's surreal, and he's so humble. Like, I mean, I'm sure you talk to people all the time that do this, and I imagine 99% of people that you talk to are really kind and wonderful, but there's
Oh
always
yeah.
in the industry just people that are not. And I'm just, knowing him has made my life better, because he gives me faith that not everybody that's successful is a complete like,
Dick.
yeah, like he's so kind and chill. He's not showy. Like
Yeah.
his credits, I had to look them up, like all of them, because he doesn't like just throw them in. He doesn't talk about them, you know what I mean? Or if he does, it's because he's talking about like a specific thing that would apply to the conversation. You know what I mean? It's not
Right.
like,
He's like, when I was writing for Pink, like this
yeah,
happened.
like, and,
You're like,
and he will
what?
be like, yeah, when I was with this or Lenny, whatever it is, and it's always just like this like casual thing, but it's meant to like, it's never meant to be showy. Is I guess what I'm saying.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but his resume is insane. Like I can't even believe I'm working alongside of him or whatever. It's crazy.
That's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
yeah.
So is Apple Pie one of the songs that has came out of that relationship?
No, I wrote that. I wrote that. We went down to Dallas's, and then at the night I came home, I wrote that. So it had nothing to do
Oh
with.
wow.
Yeah, and I was like, this is
Well,
kind of.
inspired, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I was just like, I'm gonna write like this. I don't know. I think I heard the guitar and I was like, that's cool. Apple Pie is a weird song. I like it though. It's kind of like funky. It's kind of like that four on the floor, like bass feel. I feel like it's different than anything I've done. It's a
Mhm.
really random song. Yeah, like it's a weird one. We're working on the video for it right now. We're almost
Oh,
done.
cool. Oh,
Yeah.
rad. And
Yeah.
are you writing the videos and everything still?
Yes, yeah. And then we brought on, I have another few folks helping with this video that are exceptional. Um and yeah, this one is we're boxing in it. I'm
Oh,
boxing.
cool.
I had a very clear idea for this video, like a very clear narrative, and um they are helping to bring it to life somehow. I don't even know how. They are so good at what they do, but yeah, I wanted to box. That was on the bucket list. I was like, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. So the video so it has nothing to do with apple pie? Is that just
The
the
apple pie
record?
comes in at the end when I'm like in the corner and like discouraged, and my coach like gives me the apple pie, and then I like win the fight.
Ah, okay.
It's like a little kid describing their dream to you is how I'm talking right now. But I promise if you see it, it'll make so much sense.
I like it. Very, very cool. And then you said you have a lot of songs done and ready to come out?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you gonna put out a whole project or just
I would
play it by
love to do
singles?
like the single, you know, like the modern times, just like single, and then be like, here's the EP, and it's like 6 of them are on it. Plus
Already
like,
the singles plus the new one that you just
yeah, but
released.
I want to do an EP and then ultimately just an album. Like, I don't know. I want to do an album next year and then I think an EP just at the end of this year. However, I end up doing it just with, the ones that'll be coming out. Yeah.
Very cool. And then you're doing some shows coming up too?
Yeah, like a little mini, it's not really a tour. I just put together some dates for like the end of summer, early fall. So really looking forward to that. Just craving getting out there.
Are you
Grateful.
mainly staying on the East Coast or like where are
Yeah,
the shows
East
at? Okay.
Coast. And then would love to do like an LA trip at some point in the near future and do like 1 or 2 out there, I think. The hardest part about all of it is flying for, expense reasons. Like it's just so easy to like go up and down where you live.
Right. I mean, there's so many
Right.
cities that are so close in
Right.
the East Coast. I mean, California is a different story. I mean, if you go from
Yeah.
San Diego to LA, it's a couple hours, but then you go up all the way up to San Francisco, that's like, 10 hours. So
Yeah.
you can go through
That's so
like
true.
5 or 6 easily. I don't know, probably even more states if you're doing the East Coast.
That's very true. I've noticed that too as I've like thinking about it. I'm like, wow, there's so many things that are driving distance from one another. Like it does make it easier. But yeah, just trying to just put one foot in front of the other and just get myself heard and take care of the internet at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this, Natalie.
Thank you so much. This was so wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I have
Everyone,
one more question.
yeah,
I
I
want to
got you.
know. Awesome. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Try to always trust your gut instinct because everyone's going to tell you what they think you should do all the time, 24/7. And don't be afraid to be the loudest voice in the room because it's your boat and everyone else is just on it.
Bringing it backward.